Hello and welcome to Choose the Challenge. I am LaWanna Bradford, your host, and I'm excited to be here to spotlight a point in Black history, living history. This is an encore performance where I had an opportunity to interview 2 years ago my father, my brother, and my nephew. What's so amazing and remarkable about this interview, it actually spans 75 years between the age of my father, who today is 92, and my nephew, who's 17. 2 years ago, we reflected on life. We talked about friendships, their perspectives on the world today, and they left us with 3 words that each and every one of us can choose to take to heart and live by. The whole focus of this conversation is about living your truth and living your authenticity, and doing so boldly and unapologetically. So I hope that you enjoy this interview as much as I did in conducting it. So join me in saluting the 3 generations of Harlan. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm LaWanna Bradford, and I am so excited to be here to talk about Black History Month, particularly our living Black history. And I have 3 amazing men who are here, who are actually a part of my family, and this show is called the 3 Generations of Harlan. We have Harlan Bradford Sr., Harlan Bradford Jr., and Harlan Mason Bradford. So welcome Dad, Harlan, and my nephew, Harlan, who we call Mason. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Well, one of the things the reason why I thought it was this story in particular was so interesting is the span of the generations here. So Dad, you were born in 1930. Harlan, you were born in 1969. And Mason, you were born in 2005, Dad. And so the one thing that is real interesting here is the conversations that we have among ourselves, and how here we are living in America today, 2021, but we all know that we're a sum of our experiences, and those experiences determine how we respond and react to life situations, right? So, Dad, with you were born in 1930 and you joined the military in 1948 when it was still a segregated army. Harlan, you were born in 1969, but you weren't born in this country. You were born in Vicenza, Italy, and you weren't brought up in Black America. You were brought up in a subculture, the military subculture, so very different lens. And Mason, you were born in 2005 in Atlanta, which is, just rich with history of civil rights and Black struggle. And you, in this triad of a generation, have had the opportunity to not only see a Black president, but a Black and South Asian vice president. So I use that just to set the stage. Now to ask you guys the questions. And I'm going to ask this of all of you. And I'm going to start with Harlan, and then I'm going to go to Dad, and then to Mason. So Harlan, when you were growing up, what did it mean to be, or what does it even mean now, to be a Black man in America?
It just means that you have the benefit of riding on the shoulders of those who suffered before you and had to deal with a lot of difficulties that you don't have to deal with. And in most part, I haven't faced a lot of the discrimination and oppression and obstacles that were, that people in my generation or generations before mine had to face. So growing up as a Black man in America, I feel obligated to do all the right things and growing, developing, as well as giving back to the youth in the communities that don't have fathers, to show them that there's opportunity no matter where you want to go, no matter what you want to do.
I like that. So even though you haven't borne some of the burden that the former generation did. You're taking those lessons and then lessons in your life, and you're serving as a role model and mentor to the future generation.
Yep.
That's great. Well, Dad, why don't you share what is it like to be, or what was it like for you growing up being Black in America?
Well, it's like, excuse me, I was telling Mom, it was a different world. You know, it's a different world, and it's very difficult. I know I kind of feel what what you want to do, you know, with us and with history and everything. But it was just a different world. You didn't think, black and white. Uh, you just knew it was. And white people did their thing and lived where they lived, and black people. And was another thing, it wasn't black. It wasn't black. That wasn't what we were called. We were colored people. Colored. And I didn't hear the term like Negro until I came in the military, because that's what the military called us, Negro. It was a new term for me, Negro. And like I say, colored people. It was just a different, very different world. And it's, like I told Mom, it's difficult for me to talk about it because it's a different world I lived in then. But I can't hear you, LaWanna.
Thanks, Dad. You were brought up being called colored, but then when you went to the military, there's a new term, Negro, and then Black, and now we're referred to as African Americans. So you saw the changing of the label, if you will.
Changing of the guard, man. Changing of the guard.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, Mason, what about you? Tell me, you know, because you're 15, what does it mean for you to be Black and American?
It's kind of just like everyone else. You know, we're all, I don't know, we're all like the same. It's not like I'm treated differently, like maybe how grandpa was or how dad was. It's just we're all kind of the same. I mean, I guess you have to be a little more careful with some things, but it's not like a crazy difference like how it was back in the day. So yeah.
I like that. So what I hear you saying, Mason, is you realize that there is a difference, but you don't let that difference define you. That you're just accepting of people, and you feel that and you realize there's certain things you have to be mindful of, but you're not letting that drive who you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's a question, and Dad, I'll throw this to you, because we know, especially, you know, in times of segregation, and even now, a lot of people, when you talk to them and ask, do you have friends of different races? And I'm not talking about, you know, people of different races or you work with people, but do you truly have friends? Many still, you know, they just run in their circles. So Dad, tell me about when you were growing up and your friends. Did you have friends of different backgrounds, different races as a child?
Yeah, that's something that was very difficult even now. Because all of my run buddies, if you want to call them run buddies, go hunting and fishing with, were all white. And all of them. Billy Mackey's, yeah. The Smith brothers, and all of them. I go hunting and fishing with them. And Never thought anything about it. That was the way it was, and why it was like that, I don't know. And like in our little town of Mayview, we had Robert's drugstore, and they had a little, you know how they have tables in the stores to sit out. They could all go in there and sit down. And when I go in there, he tell me sit down. I sit down too with the white kids, and 2 or 3 black kids might come in there and they'd look at me and they wouldn't dare to sit down. They wouldn't sit down. So now why that was, I don't know. To this day, never asked Mr. Lauber. He was the Lauber's drugstore. That's what it was called. He never said anything to me about it. Never told me, Harlan, you shouldn't sit there or you can't sit there. So I just sit there with the white kids.
And I like that because I know just us growing up, we didn't have certain conversations in the home that would make you not like another person because of the color of their skin. And so, Harlan, I'm going to toss it to you. What was your experience growing up, and even now with your friends? You're on mute.
Yeah, it was a very diverse group of friends, and you were friends with people that you got along with. So it really didn't matter their skin color. And to this day, the same friends that I grew up with are still my very good friends, and I think part of that is just because of the way we grew up. In a conversation that I had on my 10-year anniversary or reunion, 10-year reunion in high school, and we were all golfing, and a number of us were sitting around just talking, and said, we really didn't look at each other in different colors or as different races until we left. When we left Sierra Vista and we came back, then we started saying, oh, well, here are the differences. But because there was the military base that had a big influence, so there were a lot of kids who were mixed. A lot of the soldiers brought back wives from other countries. So a lot of the people I grew up with were mixed. So it was almost impossible for you not to have friends outside of your race growing up in Sierra Vista, which was attached to the military base, which was Fort Huachuca.
Yeah, that's good. Mason, so you heard Grandpa, here he is growing up in the 30s, and he had friends of different backgrounds. Daddy, what about you?
Kind of the same as my dad. Like all of my friends, we all went to the same school from kindergarten, so we all knew each other. Like I have pretty much every single race type in my friend group, so we all just grew up together and we just stayed friends. So yeah.
So Harlan, I'm going to toss it to you, because one of the things that we hear the word now, and it's coming up a lot, even with Biden and the executive order dealing with diversity and inclusion, and in the workplace, and being able to accept and embrace people from different backgrounds and experiences. What do you think that we can do as individuals, not just in the workplace, but in our own circle of influence? How can we create that diversity and inclusion?
Well, first of all, not being afraid to step up and raise your hand and to be heard. And the bottom line is, a good idea is a good idea. And if you are able to provide that in a way that you do get recognized and saying that, it was my idea that we're implementing, or that we were able to talk through, then they'll see that. But I don't, I think that's the big piece. But also, understanding that there are differences, but I don't know if the differences are much as in the race or as much as social, economic, as well as how people look at other things. So the diversity, I think, is good because whenever you bring in different ideas, it allows, and even studies show this, that when you bring in a diverse group of individuals to tackle a problem, that problem actually you get to see all angles of it. But if you have everybody of the same group reviewing and looking at it, they're all going to look at it typically the same way, and you may not get all the different ideas out of that. So I say raise your hand and make sure that you have a voice, but it's not a black voice, it's just your voice, and it's a voice that
Excuse me.
I like that. So here's the next question. So we all learn from our experiences. We have those key lessons. So Dad, looking at your son, looking at Harlan Jr., what one key lesson from your life would you like him to remember as he continues with his journey in life? What one key lesson?
Look before you leap. You understand that? Look before you leap. You're thinking about doing something? Well, think about it and say, okay, if I jump over there, there's a cliff over there, and I'm going to fall down that cliff. You should know that. Think about it. So that's what I mean to look before you leap. Think about it. When you're getting ready to do something, you should really give it thought, lots of thought. And if you can, and it has nothing to do with, it doesn't have anything to do because the color of your skin, but it could. It could, because if you're gonna hop on a bus and nobody's on the bus but people of a certain ethnicity, then it could. Everybody, as soon as you step on the bus and start walking back, everybody in the bus could look at you and make you uneasy. So you got to think about that. And then they may not. But you have to think in life. You have to think about what you're gonna do, what you're up to. But you shouldn't go in there saying, well, I know because of my skin, this is going to happen, because it may not. You just got to think before you act.
That's a good piece of advice. We had dinner this week and we were talking about a book by Russell Cornwell, and it was called Acres of Diamonds. And that's just a classic example of, looking before you leap. Instead of him looking and assessing, the story went where the person went to find his fortune, went to seek his fortune, not really knowing what it was going to look like. But at the end of the day, had he stayed where he was, he realized that his fortune was right there. So again, I just bring that up just to say that that's kind of a conversation we were having with Madison and Mason about just being aware of your surroundings, being aware before you move forward and make decisions. So thank you for that. So Harlan, your lesson to carry with you from Dad is look before you leap. Now, what word would you pass on to Mason?
Well, I think he sees it all the time, which is your friendships are invaluable, and the more you sow into those friendships, the more they will grow, and they will reap benefits that you can never imagine. Friends of mine, is I think you know every single one of my friends, and they've all made a difference in my life one way or another. So treasure those friendships, foster them, grow them, and always be there for your friend whenever they need you.
I love that. I heard someone say that friends are God's way of giving us a gift for the family. Yeah. So basically, like when family kind of messes up, you've got the gift of beautiful friendships to surround you and to raise you up and to encourage and support you, and you in turn do. Jason, what does it feel like right now, sitting here with your grandfather and your father, and having this conversation? How does that feel to have this opportunity?
Um, yeah, it's pretty cool because I get to just learn a bunch of stuff like from all their experiences. So they tell me things that I didn't know and help me learn a bunch of stuff. So it's cool.
That's good. Well, one of the things that we all love to do as a family is we are movie buffs. We love the movies, right? So I'm going to start with you, Dad. What type of movies did you love growing up? And what did you like most about going to the movies?
I just like, I lived in a little town of Mayview, and we didn't have a theater there. We just had somebody would come. We had a man that came with a camera, and we had a back of a building where they put up a screen, and he'd get back in the back and show the movies, and you're supposed to pay. But a lot of us kids, would sneak in. We had a big tent over the back there. We get down and crawl under there and sneak in the movie. We didn't have any money, and that was we didn't care what we just go into the movie. Oh, what's playing tonight? Nobody didn't ask anything like that. What? Didn't care. Just go into the movie. That's what she's going to see. And it was we call it Cowboys and Indians. If it was a Western, we didn't call it Western movie. It was Cowboys and Indians. That's what we watched. And that whatever it was playing, that's what we watched. It was good, to watch those movies. And there was one movie I don't know why I've been thinking about this lately, but it was a movie. Oh, one thing that happened in those days, the movies, there was always a cartoon. Always a cartoon that came up first. So this cartoon, this particular night, this cartoon came on, and it was a bunch of black people in a room, in a closet, and people were talking and laughing, and everything. And all of a sudden, let's see, what happened in that movie? Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, all of the people that were of color, black, were in a closet. They was in a closet. And remember I told you it was cartoons and everything. So they were all in this closet. And all of a sudden, a lot of noise started going on. clanking, click, click, clank, 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 clank. And it showed all the blacks, the people of color, eyes all bugged and afraid, you know. They were looking, their eyes all bugged. And people in the theater would be sniggling, you know, laughing, sniggling. And so all of a sudden, the movie showed these people of color in there, and they were frightened. They were looking, eyes all bugged, looking around. What was this noise? So then all of a sudden, it showed what the noise was, where you could see it, but the people in the closet couldn't see it yet. And it showed these people in there looking around at this noise, which was about 4 or 5 skeletons hanging down and jiggling against each other, making the noise because they were bumping into them, you know. Click, clack, click, clack, like that. So then all of a sudden, the movie showed, the cartoon showed them looking at it, them turning around and looking and seeing it was the skeletons. So then the cartoon part for the people watching the movie, for us watching the movie, was what happened next. They threw up their hands, boom, threw up their hands like this, and hollered, "Oh, Lordy, 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 Lordy." And then when they dropped their hands and everything, they went down with their hand. They went down on the floor. And then it showed a big pile of soot. And they were gone. Right? So that was the funny part, supposed to be the funny part of it. They turned into soot. That's kind of what they made, you know. That's the kind of movies they made in those days.
And that's an example, Dad, like you said, that movie where, yeah, again, it's you know, the unfortunate caricatures of Black people, how we were portrayed, you know, always scared, always terrified. And that's no different than Little Black Sambo, you know, or Uncle Remus story and the Tar Baby. There was just a lot of offensive depictions of Blacks in the movie. So thanks for sharing that. Harlan, tell us about, you know, your favorite movies. And you know, I know Dad was always dragging us to movies as a kid. So what were your favorite movies back then?
Well, that was when Star Wars was coming out. So anything that was high tech, you know, Close Encounters. So it was kind of high, you know, space type movies. And then it turned into gangster movies like The Godfather. And then kind of going back to the fantasy movies that we see today. But so those are the two big ones.
What about you, Mason?
I kind of just like action movies. So like any movie that has like some action in it, I like it. So yeah.
So Dad, sit back so we can see you. Okay, you're leaning too close. So Dad, what did you think when we were home for the holidays? You, Mason, and Harlan, I mean, we were all having movie night almost every night, but you, Harlan, and Mason actually took some time, just the three of you, and watched a movie. What did you think about that time spent with your son and grandson?
That was good. Good. We were watching Westerns, weren't we?
I think it was G.I. Joe or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so Dad and Harlan, this is what I find really interesting about the two of you. So both of you followed your path that you defined as a child. So Dad, like you You were in the military. You spent 30 years in the United States Army, and you, ever since you were a child, you always knew that's what you wanted to do. And Harlan, ever since you were a child, you always wanted to be in sales. I mean, from Kenny Shoe Store, you know, you majored in marketing, and you're in sales today. And this is going to be, you know, seen by people from different backgrounds and who have different dreams. And Dad, I'm going to start with you and ask you, what would you tell someone about living your best life and following your dreams? Living your best life and following your dreams. What would you tell the listening audience?
Well, my dream of becoming in the United States Army was soldier. I never could figure that out, but I always wanted to be a soldier. Always, all I could think of. But I could never tell anybody why. Why did you want to go in the Army? Why did you want to join the Army? And there's people who tell you, you don't want to go in the Army. You don't want to go in the Army. You don't want to. But I did well, but I didn't do as good as I should have done.
But Dad, what would you tell the people watching about them following their dreams? That's the question. What would you tell our listening audience?
I tell them to always follow your dream, but think about it first. What is it? Where is your dream supposed to lead you? Where do you think they're going to lead you? Where do you hope they lead you? Whatever. And look into what's over that hill. Always have a good idea of what's over the hill, where your dreams are going to lead you. Don't just go running all helter skelter, just, you know, with no idea. Always, follow your dreams, but also know where your dream is taking you in your dream. Yeah.
Harlan, what do you want to say to someone about living their best life and following their dreams?
Well, I agree with what Dad's saying. Living your best life, not sure what that means, but yeah, just follow your dreams, and knowing that if you are a person of faith, your life may not go in the same direction that you have planned or the direction that you want to go, but knowing that God knew the direction, and He knows the decisions that you're going to make, and just having confidence and belief that where you are is where you're supposed to be at, and always have goals, and always set your goals higher than what you believe that you can obtain, and then pursue them with all that you can, all that you have, until a new goal comes around. So that would be my suggestion, and that's kind of what I tell Mason to do.
When I say living your best life, often people are looking in other people's lanes, right? And comparing. And living your best life is just, you know, being confident in who you are and giving life the best you can every day, is being the best. And it doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. We know we will, but then you pick yourself back up, and you, again, being the best Harlan, and the best Harlan, right?
You don't have to. You don't have to be afraid, but you don't have to try to I can't think of the word now, but
Emulate
someone else, you know, that you see maybe has been successful. You know, you don't have to imitate them, but you might get some ideas and everything from that. So someone else, but in the end, don't be afraid. Yeah.
Well, Mason, just like grandpa and dad, and I find this very interesting, you seem to be pretty clear on what you want to do. So what was it about computers and coding that interested you? And what would you say to people about doing what you love?
Um, um, I just always liked computers, so I thought it would be fun to try something in computers. I just did a business project on like software engineering, so I don't know what kind of like computer stuff I want to do, but something with computers because that's fun. Um, I just tell people to do what they like to do, and yeah, just pursue that. Just like I like to work with computers, so they can pursue like stuff like that.
So do you feel that because you're doing what you like, does life seem more fun?
Yeah, when I'm working, yeah, it seems fun because I was doing something I don't like that I don't like to do. It's just not as fun. So
That's good. Good advice from all three of you. Well, this is for our last question. So this has been great, and I really appreciate your time and your insight and your stories. If each of you could leave only one word, not a sentence, one word, what would that one word be for those that are listening? Dad.
Okay. I told Mom this word would be think. When you think. Yeah. In other words, think means look before you leap. You got all that out in your mind, what you're going to read. Think about it. And before you go jumping over that cliff, make sure there's a nice soft landing place, not all rocks and a river or a lake where you're going to drown or whatever. So you got the word. One word is think. And that think, explain it to you, means look before you leap.
Okay, so we got from Harlan Bradford Sr.
Way back to my to my childhood, back to babies. We all said that. Kids said that. Look before you leap.
So the one word that Harlan Bradford Sr. is leaving for our listening audience is think.
Think before you leap.
So Dad, I'm sorry, Harlan Jr., what is your one word?
Gratitude.
Gratitude. You want to explain? You can explain it a little bit if you want.
Well, there's just life is always going to throw you curveballs. You're going to have difficult times. You'll have mountains that you have to climb. You have things that you have to leap over. But in those difficult times, you can see the good in those things. If it is looking back and going, wow, look how I was able to get a little bit stronger, or look what I learned in that difficult time. Or you just look around and just say, well, I'm thankful that I have a house, that I have my health, that I have friends, that I have a healthy family. The gratitude can take you miles. It can take you a long way, even in the difficult times. You don't focus on the difficult or the negative, but think on those things which are positive, those things which are noble, and those things which are good.
I like that. So we've got think, gratitude. Mason, what's your word?
no, I would just say like dream, because if you wanna do something, just dream. I don't know.
That's a good one.
That's good. So we've got Dad Think, Harlan Dream, Harlan Gratitude, Mason Dream. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me on this special Black History, celebrating 3 generations of Harlan, the living legacies. Dad, really appreciate you being on, talking to our Celebrate You community and our family, Harlan as well. And Mason, thank you. So Harlan, and Harlan, I salute you. I honor you. Until next time, love
Okay.
yourself, embrace yourself, and whatever you do, celebrate you.
Thank you.
Okay. Love all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.